We're here at the Health Optimization Summit with Dr. Jean Lieurance. John, you've been, we've had some mutual friends, never met in person till now. But you are, I think, on the forefront and have been for a while of biohacking. I mean, you were just an experimenter. Some people say mad scientist, but in a kind way.
Yeah.
But because you are kind of unafraid to go out there and try new things. And you, I mean, especially with methylene blue, you're kind of known, famous for your experimentations with methylene blue, red light therapy. But there's been a lot of, if you want to call it controversy, questions, mixed news about methylene blue lately. So I'd love to chat with you about that and its impact on what you found on metabolic health.
Sure. Yeah. It's true. You know, when you've got something that's so popular, I think sometimes people will want to put some negative press out there to get clicks and to get attention, you know, where there's not any inherent validity with the argument. I can't tell you how many times I've been forwarded articles or videos that people find. And, you know, and I always, you know, take them seriously and look at each point that's being made. Sure. And, you know, sometimes there's points that I'm not as familiar with as I'd like to be, where I explore it at a deeper level to make sure that what I say is, you know, accurate. Because a lot of people are looking at me for, you know, their opinion on methylene blue. So I want to make sure that, you know, all of you out there get the right message, right? And it's the truth, and it's based in science. And so, you know, what you've been working with some clients, and you had mentioned that there was some people forwarding you some information. What were some of those concerns?
Well, I mean, everything from, it turns your brain blue, right? It's like, okay. But where there's a level of toxicity, I mean, just concerns, people who are trying it, like, should I try this? Is this dangerous? I heard it was used for this way back, but yet, of course, we know it's medicinal even in the 1880s, right?
Yeah.
So there's, I think, just enough to create confusion and concern or fear around it.
Yeah.
Without a lot of knowledge around the benefits. So I think people understanding the risk to benefit ratio, which everything has.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could help clarify that, maybe.
Well, you kind of brought up two things with that initial, you know, the brain turning blue and whether it's toxic or not, right? So there was a post-mortem test on some patients that had received an IV of methylene blue, and then they looked at their, you know, they autopsied them, and there's pictures, and there's these brains are blue, the heart's blue. And so the way that methylene blue works is it's actually an oxidant in and of itself, methylene blue, and then it converts into something called leukomethylene blue. And for a lot of people, you know, you're talking about 65 to 85% of the methylene blue actually makes this conversion to leukomethylene blue. The leukomethylene blue is actually clear. And so the staining is not permanent, right? But it's really exciting for me knowing what methylene blue does and the magic, they call it the magic bullet, you know, and it was actually that term was coined for methylene blue because the scientist was realizing that this molecule works in so many different ways to help the body be healthy, but yet wasn't harmful to the body in any way, right? Like malaria was one of the first indications, and Paul Ehrlich was, you know, early 1900s, discovered that it was the cure for malaria. And the way he did that is because it was used as a stain. He applied the methylene blue to in a petri dish, right? Or I'm sorry, like a slide, right? So he could look at it under a microscope. And then what he would do is add some sort of an antimicrobial to observe whether that antimicrobial worked to kill the parasite that carried malaria. So that the stain was giving him ability to see, you know, the context of what was happening. So what happened is he added the methylene blue and just noticed that the parasite died. And so he realized, I found my cure.
Oh, wow.
Right? That's how it was discovered. And then he went on to realize, to see that it had an affinity to the mitochondria. And that's the reason that the brain and the heart turns blue, is because those cells are very rich with mitochondria, and that's the powerhouse of the cell.
Right.
And that's how we're making
ATP, energy, right?
That's how we make all of our energy, right?
Yeah.
So seeing these blue brains is really a good thing. Like we know it's getting there, right? And so it's powerful.
I get you. Yeah, there's evidence.
Yeah. And then this idea that it's toxic, and the evidence that was presented to suggest that it's toxic is that it's a xenobiotic and that it's made from, they'll use terminology of coal tar or petroleum, right? So basically, petroleum is plant matter, ancient plant matter, right? So there's
Right.
organic compounds and hydrocarbons. They're the building blocks to make other molecules. And there are a lot of, in fact, virtually most of all the medicines that we take are
from
made,
hydrocarbons.
and it's a very good building block to make larger molecules because they're very shelf stable, and that's important, right? And so you can't say that because it has this origin that it's toxic, like toxicity and the origin. Like there are some molecules that are made that are very toxic, and then there's some molecules that are, very beneficial to the body, right? So, and it can be a problem if you take really high doses of methylene blue, and all of the negative effects that they've seen has all been with IVs and higher doses, like especially over 2 and even 4 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So if you're under the 2 milligram, I mean, you don't even need to worry about anything at all. And if you're under the 4, this really gets more with like serotonin, where people on SSRIs or MAOI inhibitors, that's where you want to definitely stay under the 2 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. But it's not a black or white thing. And of course, talk to your doctor before starting anything. But the evidence suggests that, it's, and the methylene blue can be very helpful for depression because it elevates dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine, which most of your medicines that are working towards depression are working on those neurotransmitters.
How does that impact? So I know it works on the mitochondria. How is it impacting neurotransmitter production? Is that in the gut mostly, isn't it?
Well, the easiest explanation for all of the benefits, because you have neuroprotection, it clears tau and beta amyloid out of the brain. They're researching it for Alzheimer's. It's an antimicrobial, very broad spectrum antimicrobial. Doesn't obliterate your microbiome if you take it properly. It works as an antidepressant, and it enhances energy, right? So it enhances mitochondrial output, an average of about 30%.
Okay.
So when you have something that's improving energy, then the body has a tendency to use that energy to express health.
Oh, gotcha. Right.
So at the end of the day, it becomes easier to kind of explain, instead of getting into all the chemistry, which a lot of you out there probably won't retain.
True.
Just understanding.
I'm super nerdy curious about it, but I understand what you're saying. Right. Anytime you can increase energy, you can improve sleep. If you improve sleep, you've improved a host of other things related to our health, like the serotonin production and so forth like that. But yeah, energy, it comes down to energy production, doesn't it? And doesn't it affect the electron transport chain in some way? Is that what it's?
It gets in and it lubricates. I like, the word, kind of lubricate. There's 4 proteins in the mitochondria, right? And they're named after 1, 2, 3, 4. And methylene blue reflects blue and it absorbs red. Right, so we use red lights, and the sun there's a lot of red and near infrared light. Predominantly, those are the most significant contexts of the spectrum of the sun. So we can take those as photons and use them as energy. So methylene blue, besides just enhancing energy in of itself, has an ability to act like a sponge and pull the red and near infrared lights, particularly the red in the spectrum of about 660 nanometers.
Wow.
Into the mitochondria.
I didn't realize that. So that explains why a lot of people are combining red light therapy with methylene blue at the same time.
Exactly.
Or even the hyperbaric to push more oxygen in.
It's a great stack. And then, so I call it red blue O2.
Red blue O2?
Yeah.
So you get more oxygen, more red light coming into the mitochondria, and you get this like a boost, basically, like a little healing boost for our energy production. Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing. You've got a whole line of products related to. I mean, I've had your is it mito? Oh no, the gluta cap. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Glutastat.
Glutastat. That's what it is. Glutastat. I say it wrong, but it has glutathione, saline, sinus issues,
Sage, clove, bay leaf.
Yeah.
It's got some different terpenes. Linalool is a really big one for, and as an antimicrobial. Essential oils tend to like clear out biofilm, and we build up biofilm in the nasal passage, and then it acts as like flypaper to hold on to things in our environment. So then there could be more allergic issues. You could be more susceptible to catching something that's airborne. So doing some sort of I like to have a lot of my patients do a 30-day more intensive sinus cleaning, and then do some sort of a maintenance. And that,
with the glutastat, 30-day. Okay, great. Yeah, and that, I mean, the balloon treatment that you guys do, I guess, would be kind of like a kind of a kickstart for that. I would imagine, to really open things up.
Yeah. So this treatment, I know it's going to sound crazy for people listening, but it's something that I learned within my first couple of years of practicing, and I've been practicing for 30 years now, right? And so this was something that helped me because I couldn't breathe through, particularly the right side of my nose. And when I heard about this, I was in chiropractic school, just intuitively, like, I think I need that to open this back up. And I was right. So when I had it done for the first time, it was like somebody stepped on a bag of Doritos on my face. And my initial thought was like, okay, what's broken? Where's the blood?
Exactly.
You know,
that was my thought. I'd had it done. Yeah.
But there was no blood. Nothing was broken. And I felt incredibly calm and relaxed, like more calm and relaxed than I'd ever in my life. And yeah, it was really beautiful. And so then I'm like, I got to learn how to do this. So now I teach other doctors. I've got a book I've written on it, and I feel that when you look at the cranial structure of most people in modern society, there's a collapse that happens, and that causes crowding of the teeth. So the teeth don't have as much room, because the palate goes up like this, and then the teeth crowd. So what this procedure does is it actually opens it up into its normal structure, and besides opening up the airways and allowing more room for the teeth, the cheekbones will come out a bit, and
so it really affects the whole cranial structure of the face structure. You can affect the palate with this treatment.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's where when we first started talking, I'm like, a series of this would really make a big difference. That's where you actually start to see some changes. And they're very positive. They're all considered to be more attractive, wider faces.
Yeah, people spend thousands of dollars and have braces going on for a year or two to try to widen their palate and try to open the face up for the breathing pathway, everything. I mean, it impacts how you sleep, how you look, like you said. You're just everything as you age with the breathing. I mean, that seems to be something I see a lot with my clients, especially male clients who are over 50. And they're having issues with sinus and sleep. And so for you to, a simple treatment like this, you're not wearing braces for 2 years. You're talking about widening the palate.
Well, it doesn't have to be an either or.
Right. No. Okay.
We've worked with orthodontists that, we can speed the process up. And just keep in mind, some of the orthodontists, a lot of them don't want to speed it up, because they're like, I'll put you on a monthly payment plan type of thing.
Of course.
So it's like the dirty little secret in orthodontist, right? But we could speed the process up dramatically by doing the adjustments, and then the braces move things much more rapidly.
Sure. But through a series of treatments, you've seen people's palate widen.
Oh, yeah.
And facial structure change. And again, leading back to one of our earlier topics, sleep, which would improve breathing, sleep apnea, I would assume. Sleep apnea.
Yep. See a lot of that.
Wow.
Headaches, a lot of degenerative neurologic disorders, vestibular disorders. I'm a functional chiropractic neurologist, so my training has been to work with a lot of complex neurological conditions using, basically natural strategies to activate the brain, right? And then my naturopathic training is in having better fuel delivery, right? Because that's what the whole mitochondrial
Right.
conversation comes into play. And that's why methylene blue was like such a perfect adjunct to my practice.
Well, and then you had mentioned the bacteria, impacting the bacteria, or be able to reduce the level of bacteria and viruses in the sinuses, right? So that has an impact with the proximity of the brain. So where are you seeing, I mean...
Well, I like to call it like taking care of your doorways. So the primary doorways is the nasal passage, the mouth, and the colon. And so these are areas that if we don't take care of them, and there's a microbial overgrowth, of bacteria that produce a lot of what's called endotoxins, and those are incredibly inflammatory. And so when that inflammation gets to a certain level, we can consider that inflammation a stressor. And in fact, all stressors have that in common, where they create inflammation.
Right. Okay.
And that shuts down mitochondrial function through the cell danger response.
The inflammation shuts down mitochondria. So it's protecting the cell, protecting the mitochondria. Okay. And so that would impact, being close to the brain, that would impact, for instance, risk of things like dementia or plaques, things like that. Would you theorize that could have I can't diagnose, obviously, but theorize that it might impact brain function as we age?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I appreciate your time, energy. I know you have a place where you offer treatments in South Florida, right? West Coast?
Mm-hmm. In Sarasota.
In Sarasota? Okay.
Yeah.
And
so you can find me advancedrejuvenation.us, or I'm on Instagram a lot with Dr. John Lieurance.
Dr. John Lieurance.
Dr. John Lieurance.
And how can people find your supplementation and the
right, Mitozen, Mitozen, mitozen.com.
Mitozen.com. Great.
Yeah.